Chapter 4. English Prisoners. Gamut had been shot in the leg, but it was not serious. He sat on a blanket next to Cora and Alice, singing a sad song quietly to himself. Alice was terribly frightened by the fighting. She sat on the bed, crying in Cora's arms.
I'm scared. I want to get out of here.
It's all right. Father's coming. We'll leave in the morning.
An Indian had stabbed Major Hayward in the arm. His white shirt was now red with blood. Hayward walked through the tunnels to see if there was another way out. He saw a big hole in the rock on the side of the mountain, and he heard Indian voices outside. He waited quietly, and when they left, he returned to the others. As he turned the corner to go to the back of the cave, he saw an Indian watching the women from the tunnel at the opposite end. It was Magua. Hayward fired his gun and the women screamed, but he missed. Magua escaped through another tunnel. The Indians outside the cave heard the gunshot, and they ran in and captured them. They were not Iroquois Indians, but Hurons. When they left the cave, Magua joined them. The Hurons took them back to the forest, where they had left their horses. The sun was rising, and the Indian chief wanted to go to the camp first to tell the others that they had prisoners.
The council will decide what to do with them. Magua, you stay here. If they try to escape, kill them.
Magua smiled. Most of the Huron Indians crossed the river and left the English with Magua and 6 other Hurons. The Indians caught and killed a deer, and they made a fire to cook it. Magua could not stop looking at Cora. He took her away from the others so he could talk to her alone.
I see you at Fort Edward. You very pretty. If you make Magua your husband, I let others go free.
I'd rather die.
Cora turned to go back to the fire, but Magua grabbed her hair and screamed loudly to the other Indians.
We do not wait for others come back. We kill them now.
The other Indians began to scream excitedly. All of the English were scared. The Indians tied them to 4 separate trees.
I ask you one more time. You marry Magua?
Cora looked at her sister Alice, who was crying.
Alice, darling, I'll do anything for you. I'll marry this Indian to save you. But I want you to tell me it's all right.
Alice could not stop crying. Finally, she was able to speak.
No!
Magua yelled loudly as he threw his tomahawk at Alice's head and cut off part of her hair. Hayward managed to untie himself and he ran at Magua. They fought and rolled on the ground. One of the Huron Indians raised his knife to kill Hayward, but just then they heard a rifle shot. The Indian fell down dead, and everyone turned to see Hawkeye with his rifle raised to his eye. Chapter 5. Fog in the Forest. The Indians attacked Uncas, Chingachgook and Hawkeye with their knives and tomahawks. One of the Indians tried to escape with Cora.
No! No!
When Uncas heard her screams, he threw his tomahawk and killed the Indian. He took Cora by the hand and led her away from the fighting.
Save my sister Alice. You've done enough for me.
Uncas looked into her eyes and touched her face. Then he ran back to the fighting. They were able to kill all the Huron Indians except Magua. He escaped again. Chingachgook was not happy.
He is the clever fox, but if the clever fox is not killed, he will return to kill.
The sun had risen, and it was time for them to ride to Fort Henry. Hawkeye, Uncas, and Chingachgook walked as they could move faster that way, through the forest they knew so well. They reached an open area near a green hill with an old stone house on top of it. The party stopped, and Uncas and Chingachgook walked quietly towards the hill. There were long sticks in the ground, and it was deserted. Haywood spoke to Hawkeye quietly.
What's going on?
This is the Mohicans' burial ground. The last of their tribe were killed here. Uncas and Chingachgook are the only two left.
Everyone watched in silence as Uncas and Chingachgook walked over the sacred ground. It began to get foggy as they got close to Fort Henry. They stopped on a mountain where they could see the top of the fort. They heard gunfire and the sound of troops moving through the forest. They had to move quickly, but they could only see 10 feet in front of them. They heard a great boom which came from Fort Henry, and cannonballs began to break the trees down. They could hear gunshots, and Uncas, Chingachgook, and Hawkeye ran ahead of the horses. They wanted to reach the fort safely and quickly. They saw some shadows, and they realized they were soldiers.
Are they English troops or French?
Shh! The Indians were no longer sure which way to move. They were walking slowly and carefully forward.
I think I see Fort Henry.
They heard 2 rifle shots. French troops surrounded them. The Indians yelled out, and the horses got scared and began to run away.
Cora! I'm falling! I'm falling! Hang on, dear. We're almost there. I can't! I can't!
Colonel Monroe was standing on top of the fortress walls. He heard his daughter's voices.
Lower the drawbridge! My daughters are out there!